Welcome, crew, to What Are Your Three, a Channel 3 podcast where we take a member of the Channel 3 community, discuss 3 games of their choosing, honorable mentions, future games, things along those lines so we can have a little video game conversation. I'm Dan Tucker. With me, as always, El Rey.
What's going on, everybody? Today's guest I could describe as one half of the dynamic duo that always shows up on Wednesday Night Fall Guys. He is the older half, C3.GG/hrlwesty, Mr. Westy. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Well, welcome aboard. We're going to dive right in. Let's get into the games. First game you wanted to discuss here tonight, NBA Jam 4.4 rated on Channel 3. It's among the best sports games. My favorite one is the fact that it's on, I think, Brian McGinnis's Just One More list, where that you just want to get one more game in there, you sneak that in there. But probably the best transition for lists, it's on your Mount Rushmore. So why did you pick NBA Jam to kick this thing off?
Yeah, for me, this is one of the most influential games in my life, so it has to be on there. It started for me as an arcade game, and I experienced it there. Going back in time, I was a senior in high school, and NBA Jam came out. They used to have this arcade place called Aladdin's Castle, and I don't know if it was regional or nationwide, but it was in malls and things. My friends and I discovered that, and I think it's the first time that I was addicted to a video game, and maybe that's a theme that'll carry through this podcast tonight. But it was really interesting because it was quick moving, but it had actual players, and to me at the time I thought the graphics were just outstanding and it looked like those players.
And
they had
realistic.
different attributes.
Yeah,
for being a completely crazy arcade game where things go on fire and you have backboards breaking all over the place, it had a realistic feel to it, which is bizarre. But it was also like very expensive. That was the other thing I remembered about it. You put in a quarter and you play 1/4 of the game. So we had a lot of debates early on. It's like, who was good at it? Oh, I won a game. It's like, oh, did you win the full game? No, I just played 1/4. And it wasn't till later, once we played a whole game, that we really realized how complex the game was. And it's both catch-up mechanic that we always called fair play, where if you got a lead, then the computer came back at you hard. And about how tricky it was to win at the end, because the computer would also kind of ramp it up. So we got into that, and it became a focal point of kind of our senior year fun. So in my school, it wasn't that big of a graduating class, like 50 people, but I had this core group of friends, and we were given off-campus privileges in the afternoon. And now I realize it was to prevent senior slide, or at least make it a little bit better. But we would have this senior seminar in the first part of the day and then be allowed to go someplace and just get out of there. And we would rush to the mall that was near us to play this game. And I still remember one of our competitions going into this thing was who could get there the fastest. And one day I was at a light, and it was a right on red situation. I waited till a car was about there, and I just darted out in front of that car in a safe way where I could eliminate them from following me.
I was going to say, Westy, I'm not a lawyer, but I think the statute of limitations is going to be up on this one, but just be advised. Not a lawyer. I mean,
it was legal, but then we talked about that as like an Axel Foley moment where I was just waiting for the light to change to try to win that race. Anyway, okay. So you can cut that out, but that's...
Wait, do I have to cut it out? Or when you say can, do I have to? Otherwise, it stays.
Okay, fine.
Including this part. This stays. I'm putting it in, I'm doubling it. I'm putting it in, I'm doubling it.
So we would go there, and if you bought tokens in bulk, then it wasn't a quarter for a quarter. But we spent a lot of money, especially for those times where we didn't have money at this arcade playing this. And we ultimately, at the end, got one of the accounts to be the grand champion. I had to fill in for one of my friends because he got a little bit farther, and we finished it off finally. So then going forward, we would use that account as like our shared account on that machine. So then that transitioned into NBA Jam Tournament Edition, came out, and we were 18 years old. So there was a casino near us that had really cheap video games. So people go to casinos for a variety of reasons. We would go to play in the arcade, and it's supposed to be the babysitter there, right? So the tokens are super cheap. And at that time, you didn't get the secrets on the internet. The internet was kind of starting, but we found in some back corner of the internet this frequently asked questions thing with all of those codes that you can do in NBA Jam and these different modes that you can turn on. Like there was this tank mode cheat that I don't know if you guys are familiar with this one, but it changes it into this like completely different game where it's a first person shooter with vector tanks, but you're shooting these things. And if you win that game, then it gives you all the power-ups in NBA Jam. So we would experiment with that kind of thing, and we really got into it.
So I just have to ask, you kind of answered my follow-ups, but I have to ask this question. What do you think the estimate was of what you blew on NBA Jam in high school? Because my God, like, I mean, we had the arcade once every couple of weeks, but man, that thing, like you said, that burned quarters. My God.
It did. And I know I bought tokens in bulk at Aladdin's Castle one time, and it was $30 or something like that for enough that, that made it for a while. So, I don't know how many tokens we got. So that was like 30. The casino pays you money if you're good at it. I'm just kidding. But on the casino, it was much, much cheaper. Like $5 would get you enough to play NBA Jam for as long as you wanted there because they just wanted to keep the kids busy. And, here's the other thing that you're going to need to cut out. We used to then hustle a little bit in NBA Jam because we got so good at it. If you had 4 people playing, the winning team would get a free game. So we could get 2 games out of it. So when we were at Aladdin's Castle, we would find people and play them. Then when we were at the casino, there were 3 of us there, and we just wanted to get that free game and try to advance our profile. So we just find somebody to play with the extra person, as the extra person there. So we'd get the free game. That wasn't hustling. We were just giving somebody a free game. But I remember that was a source of pride because I got so good that I could take anybody in the casino, a kid, and play with them and beat my 2 friends. And it's like, okay, well, now we know who's carrying everybody in this NBA Jam.
For legal purposes, I will just put in here, that's not really hustling, thank God. It wasn't like, hey kid, what's this NBA Jam game? Can you show me how this works? I've never played it before. Come on over. Let's throw a couple bucks in that. Thank God it wasn't that. Okay. I'm leaving it.
No, I mean, we were paying for other people, but yeah.
I'm leaving it.
Okay, so then the exciting thing about that is then it came out on the Super Nintendo, and we were really into it on the Super Nintendo as well. But the problem with the Super Nintendo is it wasn't 4-player compatible right at the beginning, right? You had to get that special adapter, and I think it came with Super Bomberman or something, some kind of a obscure game. And we had to rent that 4-player adapter all the time to play it. So then when the Nintendo 64 came out and it had the 4 slots, we were all in on that.
The games of Mario Kart, GoldenEye, Perfect Dark alone benefited from that 4-player.
Yeah, and I'm glad they realized that. I mean, I think that was an important enhancement to the system.
All right, so with that, let's move on to game number 2, Pokémon Blue, which is one of the original Pokemon games. It has 4.6 star rating. For those that follow our podcast and our battle here on the podcast, the enemy of the podcast, our 1-star rater, has hit this game with a 1-star rating. It's clearly not a 1-star game. So Pokémon Blue, I assume that's the one you picked because that's the one you owned. Is there more behind it? Why blue? Why not red? Why not yellow?
It's a good story. I own both, but Pokemon then came out in the second phase of my video game experience. I worked at a store called Funcoland, which was a predecessor to EB Games, Electronics Boutique Games, and then ultimately, I think, GameStop. I don't know the succession, if they went out of business and GameStop just kind of ate their lunch, or if it was an actual acquisition. But Funcoland started in Minnesota, where I'm from, and I was working in the first Funcoland store number 1, that was by the corporate headquarters. So that was a great game. great job. Pokemon's also a great game. When I was working at FuncoLand, they had every game in existence there, and all the systems set up. So when you had a slow day working there, you could play every video game. And that was a weird experience for me because prior to that, I'd always wanted an experience like that. But then when you actually are hit with it, it's a little bit too much. And, but okay, I digress. Pokemon. So Pokemon was coming out while I was working there, and I kept hearing about how great this game was and how, there are all these pre-orders and everybody's going to buy this thing and it's crazy. And we were fielding phone calls because they couldn't keep it in stock. And I didn't know anything about it. I guess if I was more on my game, I would have known that it came out in Japan before and what it was about. And it wasn't really my genre of games. You can tell by the NBA Jam thing. I was very focused in sports, and one of the honorable mentions I didn't make was NHL 94. That was like the same era, and I just had to choose one of the two games. But I was very into sports games. But I kept hearing about this Pokemon game coming out. And my last day at FuncoLand was like the second week of Pokemon coming out, and we were supposed to get a shipment in. And so it was also the night of the Vikings versus Chicago Bears on Monday Night Football, and the manager of the store really wanted to watch that game. So it was just me, and he turned the store over to me. That's fine. I'm responsible. I got a shipment in, and they said there was Pokemon in there. And so I tried to do something that I've never done before, which was enter all the inventory from the shipment to try to get that onto the shelves because I was very curious about it. And I went through the whole shipment, and then Pokemon wasn't actually in there. But ultimately, I got that game. And then I realized why everybody was so addicted to this game. It had the role-playing game elements, but the thing that hooks me on games like that is the collecting, the gotta catch 'em all aspect of it, and building characters over time. So my best character is one you wouldn't even expect. It was a Spearow that I just took from beginning to end, turned it into a Fearow. There was Drill Peck, and I was just dominating the Final Four with that. That game kind of changed the way I was thinking about video games, and I got hooked on all of the Pokemon series after that. And now watching my kids play all the different Pokemon games, I see that mechanic and that whole genre still holds up really well.
So with collecting, and you said you owned first the blue and red, did you find a way to collect all 151 Pokemon?
I did, between the two, because I at one point then I had a Game Boy, the original Game Boy, and I had a Game Boy Color, and I had a link cord, and I was able to trade among the two just back and forth with myself. I also had some friends that were playing, but it was hard to match that up back then. It was pre-internet. And you couldn't get Pokemon any other way. It had to be like physically transferring these things. So that is why I got both of those games. They sold me on that concept where I'm going to get all of these.
And so after that, did you ever finish another Pokedex? Because you said you played all the other games. So you would do every single one.
Yeah. Well, here's the tragedy that happened then too. I was trying to get a workaround to move those original Pokemon from Generation 1 up to Generation 3 was the more advanced Game Boy. And I had a cord that was like multiple adapter. And I was like,
I know the cord, yep.
Okay. And I'm like, well, they say this isn't going to work, but I'm going to make this work. And I tried to make it work, and I lost all of the Pokemon from G1 on the thing. Now, they're transferable anyway, really. I don't think I could still have mine, but so many hours went into that. But yes, I was a completionist, and I was trying to do all the Pokedexes every time going forward.
Did you so now playing the new ones? Have you gotten Scarlet?
Yeah. So my son has it, and he's playing it. He's trying to get me to play it too, and I've been resistant just because I know it's going to take up so much of my time when I do it. It's not something I can kind of half do. I get very into, okay, I'm going to collect them all and really dive into this. So now he's switched to, well, you need to get Pokemon Violet, so then we can get them all, and you can just play Pokemon Violet on your own pace, and he's probably going to win that argument. We got holidays coming up here.
Oh, Dad, look what I got you for Christmas.
Yeah, no, play through it and give me the Pokemon. And he has all of my good Pokemon from before. I have these legendaries and really rare ones from many generations ago in that Pokemon home. And then I'm like, hey, where'd those go? Oh, they're in my game right now. I'm dominating.
So my last question on it, with the Pokemon Blue or Red, were you a fan of doing any of kind of those like game breaking stuff, like putting like the missing no and all those or getting like the 99 rare candies or that kind of stuff?
Yeah, no, that stuff was always interesting, and I knew about it. Ironically, I would never try something like that because I'd be worried about corrupting all of my Pokemon, and then I lost them anyway, so I probably should have tried some of that. But yeah, Mew, and I say I got them all, but I did not get Mew for the original G1.
No, I've never. I was paranoid about it. I had a Game Boy that went bad on me. I remember having to buy a new Game Boy. I had Pokemon Red, and something went wrong with that. And I ended up getting Pokemon Yellow. I was always paranoid. I was like, no, I can't, because I'll be the one. It ruins everything, and I'll never see these Pokemon again. So I avoided it all the time.
Legitimate fear. When you invest that much time and effort into a game, you don't want anything to happen.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go to game 3. Marvel Snap. Wait, no. I'm sorry. Marvel Strike Force. There are other Marvel mobile games? No, I'm just kidding. I can't. This one's a 4.5 rated battle RPG. I think, I didn't play too much of this one. I did try it. I gave it a healthy run in there. Let's not talk about Snap, but talk about Marvel Strike Force. So you were among the high ratings. It's got a pretty good feedback, but you also called out in review. You have to watch. There's a potential money drain with this one. I know they're trying to get you to bulk up on characters, but game number 3 is a busy spot to be in, especially when you look at some of the honorable mentions coming up. Talk about Strike Force.
Yeah, it's made the list with number 3 in a negative way. So I love this game, but it's terrible, and I in the sense that it's very addicting. It hits at everything that I talked about with Pokemon that I get addicted to, but in then a bad way, and tries to leverage that to get money out of you. So I play this all the time, but it's kind of like what White Thunder was saying last week or last podcast about, or maybe that's multiple podcasts ago.
By the time people hear this, it's gonna be like a month ago now. You're the first podcast. Happy New Year! You're the first podcast of the new year.
Okay, it's kind of like what White Thunder was saying on his podcast with Facebook, where you're just on it for a long time. You're like, what am I doing here? There are better things that I could do with my gaming time and with my life. So, but the problem with Marvel Strike Force is I've invested so much time in it, and I love the IP, the Marvel characters, that I can't really quit without walking away from this big investment in time, not money. I've always treated these freemium games as they're free if you just work your off. Can you say?
Yeah. You can say whatever you want. I may censor "but" just to make it sound like you said something worse. I don't know. Hey, I gotta tell you, I got a game for you. Then let me tell you, don't get in this. Don't cross the snap threshold. Don't do it. Save yourself. This is definitely that was definitely a game where I played. Like I say, I played it for a little bit, but there's that episode of South Park where they talk about the freemium games and the Canadian Devil being responsible for it, and I fully felt that with this one, because every turn you'd play a level and then it'd be like, hey, buy this character. Buy this character, and I started wondering, like, it was a game where I felt like I was hitting a wall unless I was going to put money into it, and I'm like, that's just not going to happen. I have no problem. Somebody mentioned on one of them, get a little something for the freemium game, no problem. But no, that wasn't going to happen for this one.
Yeah, for me, it started with a game before Marvel Strike Force. It was Simpsons Tapped Out, and that's an EA game too. So you trust that.
They're doubling down on the evil money grab.
Yeah. Did you ever play the Simpsons Tapped Out one?
I didn't, but you know what? There was that South Park and Family Guy, like all that version of that game was having some adaptation to IP of it in basically every IP there was at the time.
Yeah, it went nuts. And I got in pretty much at the ground floor, whatever direct marketing, and it's like, you like video games and you like Simpsons. And the writers from Simpsons were involved in it. I mean, it was like high quality in terms of dialogue. You chuckle when you were playing it, and it was just more and more of a time suck for me. And it was okay when you're like commuting to work. I was riding the light rail, that's our like train, here into work, and you could be on your phone and do it a little bit. But those kind of games reward you if you log in every few hours and that. So it breeds this addiction and this desire to stay interactive with it over time. And then they set up this choice. It's like, hey, Westy, we know you're a busy person and there's probably other things you want to do. So instead of just logging in 8 times today, why don't you just give us $2 and we'll just call it even and we'll give you all this stuff. And they're like, oh, that's starting to seem like a good deal to me because my time is valuable, at least I think it is, and $2 isn't that much money. And then those microtransactions just keep getting pushed on you. I didn't do it, and I just had this moral code that I wasn't going to do it. Finally, on Marvel Strike Force, I did pay for one limited time skin thing. I think Fortnite broke me down on that because I got a lot of value of the Fortnite skins, and I finally gave Marvel Strike Force $5. But I started Marvel Strike Force in 2018 when it came out, and I was able to escape it for a little while, and then I got pulled back in, and right now I'm spending way too much time on that, so I need to get out of that eventually.
Well, listen, again, I've got a game for you. Come on over to Marvel Snap, join us.
Well, that's the thing. When you guys got into that, I'm like, uh-oh, this is trouble, because it has all of the characters, and it looks like it has progression, and it's like, yeah, that is exactly the kind of game that I would love.
You don't have to spend a dime on it. That's the best.
But how do they make the money then?
I can't figure it out yet, because there are clearly people, like, you bump into them that are spending money on the skin variants for the cards and the icons, sure. But otherwise, like, haven't hit a wall yet.
I mean, they do, like, their battle pass is monthly. And so, I mean, it costs a bit to buy one each month, but you see the people who, like Dan said, they have the extra, like, skins, but it's not changing anything. I mean, you can probably push yourself to get some of the cards a little bit quicker if you throw in a decent amount of money. But I have not hit a point where I'm like, oh man, I can't win anymore because everyone else is paying for cards. Because just playing the game, they give you the cards.
I was going to say the battle pass, I think the only thing that might be in there is Silver Surfer that I haven't seen yet, but everything else in the battle pass has just been a variant of the card itself, which has there is nothing different than the appearance of the card. And
you'll get you get more more points, more gold. You can probably get a couple things a little faster. But yeah, it's very little like value other than looking pretty. Okay. And I say that as I buy Fortnite every single time, which has absolutely no value except looking pretty. But I keep buying.
Way better with the John Wick skin. It's a fact. If you look at my stats, way better. I don't know why I have more confidence with it, but I just identify with the John Wick.
Moving on now to the honorable mentions. First on the honorable mention list is Minecraft with the 4.2 stars. So first question, is this like Minecraft original back on the PC when everyone had these weird servers? Or is this Minecraft now because you play with your kids? Or has it been both?
It's a little bit of both. I was never in the original Minecraft servers. And I remember hearing about Minecraft. I was like, what is this game? And you ride around in a minecart? And I was like, that's not for me. And then I'd see things where they have like roller coasters with minecarts. That's not my type of game. Then I think Microsoft might have purchased it, or maybe it was right before Microsoft purchased it. And then it was on the Xbox, the console version. Yeah. Before Bedrock, so there was just like the Xbox version. I was like, I'm going to try this thing. And I got hooked on that too. It had the building elements that I like in a game where I feel like I'm being productive when I'm playing video games. So I would mine like crazy and build these giant houses that would protect me and stuff. Then my kids got into it. And then they've taken over, just like Pokemon, where they play a lot more Pokemon than I play currently. Both of my kids have these massive setups for Minecraft. And then they've gone to summer camp that specializes in Minecraft and building things. And they learn more about Minecraft and programming too, which is kind of cool. That really became a big thing for our whole family at this point.
Is your family, do you focus on the free build mold, or do you guys like do the survival and
Survival.
actually try to kind of you do like progressing through the story and all that stuff.
Sorry, there's probably a debate here. I only play survival. I don't like having everything available. Though I'll occasionally just load up on TNT and blow up a world because that's kind of satisfying in some ways. Maybe edit that one out too. The kids will do more of the free play creative stuff too. I think my daughter did a blue channel 3 out of blue sheep. That's her type of thing that she likes to do.
So where are you all playing now? Because I remember I was in college when it first came out, and I didn't understand it when they were talking about these things. And then my youngest brother picked it up when it came out on Xbox 360. That's when I watched him play it a bunch. Where are you playing it now?
Okay, my daughter plays on the iPad. That's her primary system for that. And my son plays on the PC. And so we bought, consequently, 6 different versions of this. We have the regular PC one, whatever that is, the Bedrock one. We have the iPad version and the Xbox version. We have it on the Switch too with Mario. That's pretty cool.
You have kind of like your favorite build or favorite creation that you worked hard and put together on?
That world I was telling you about, that I spent so much time that was survival and just setting up and then finally beating that Ender Dragon, and then you go into that other space, I forgot what that's called, and then get those wings. That took a long time.
The Nether and the Ender, right? Those are I'm learning. I'm catching up on this one.
Yeah. And then there's something else past the Ender Dragon. I forgot what that world's called. We can look it up and someone can fact check.
Second game on the honorable mention list is both Madden / NCAA football. So,
hey, throw Monster League football in there while you're at it.
Hold on, this is a new opinion. I don't know if I've heard anyone say that they're the same game. Please go ahead. Tell me about this.
Right? I mean, you're playing American football, and are you playing with the NFL rules, or are you playing with NCAA? And the difference is not on the field. In that way, it's pretty much the same. The difference is in franchise or whatever, or dynasty, if you're recruiting people in college and trying to advance your school versus the NFL where you're doing it more with money, salary cap, and that kind of thing. I put them together because they're both EA Sports games, and I would buy one or the other every year when they both came out.
Do you have a favorite year or a year that stuck out, or maybe is it a favorite video game cover?
It would be, I think, the last year that NCAA football came out that I purchased. I don't think I have the most current one because that one's worth a lot of money.
My God,
on the internet.
14. Good luck getting a hold of that at this point.
It's crazy, but they're bringing it back, so that'll help drop the prices. Then I think whenever they get the new version out. But yeah, I still go back to that version of the game. I think I have it on the Xbox 360, and I play that. Back when it first started with that NCAA, you had to enter all of the player names by hand. So I bought a magazine, talk about time suck, and I entered all of it. Started with the Big Ten. I'm a Minnesota Gopher fan, so I just did that, and then I kept expanding on those names. The next year, I realized there was a place that you could buy them, and it was in Iowa too, ironically, pretty close. But they entered all of them onto one memory card, and then you send them your memory card, and they just transfer it over and send it back to you. That was the greatest thing, because you could not get the player names, and that added so much. And the interesting, Easter egg in there, maybe it's not even an Easter egg, but if you have the names right, the announcers would say the names in that game. So they set it up to have the names in there and then just erase the names and publish the game. So anyway, thank you to those Iowa people that were entering all those, because that saved me a lot of time. That I don't mind spending money on. I think that was $10 and it added a lot to that game.
So are you someone that, because you're a Gophers fan, I'm assuming you're a Vikings fan up in Minnesota, right? Are you someone that you have to play with your team when you play Madden? Or are you allowed to play with other teams as well?
Well, okay. For Madden, yes, it's always Vikings. I can't play as anybody else. I can't even tolerate it. For college football, I was getting really good at that game, and the Gophers were actually believe it or not, too good. So then I started playing with, this is years ago, Rutgers and some of the bad teams. And I also adopted Army. So I always have this rooting interest for Army in the Army-Navy game, even though I have no association with the Army other than this video game. So I watched the Army-Navy game the other day. I'm like, go Army, beat Navy.
That's a real gutsy... Ray's calling this out, and again, I'm going to date this thing this way. Real gutsy. Are you a Giants fan, Ray?
I am a Giants fan.
That was a big game today, bud. Big game today.
Let me tell you, I don't know how they're doing what they're doing this year.
I'm not going to tell Westy I'm an Eagles fan either, because he's got his own problems from a few years ago now.
And I have no idea. I don't know how the Giants are having success, and of course, the entire NFC East decided to have success at the same time. I can't tell you what's happening.
Not the entire, Ray. Not the entire.
Most of it. I don't understand.
I only see a quarter of it having success. No, I'm sorry. I was going to say I only see a quarter of it having success, but you go ahead, Westy.
Well, I was just going to say the Eagles have the Vikings number, and then after that game that you were talking about from years ago to go to the Super Bowl, then the Vikings hired one of the Eagles coaches, right? And then that just didn't even pan out for us.
Oh, that flat out blew up in their faces. That did not pan out. That just blew up in their faces.
Yeah.
All right, we're moving it. We got to get out of it. We got to pull the ripcord on this. I can't let this go any deeper. It's going to get ugly. All right, let's go. Let's move to game 3. Let's talk about GoldenEye, a classic on the Nintendo 64 specifically. I'm going to tell you right now already, so the day this podcast drops, I've already entered the quest in based on me about to go off on the fact asking, is this the worst escort mission of all time in gaming?
So which mission?
Oh, the one where you have to protect Natalia while she's trying to hack into the computer.
And she's so slow.
And just you've got 6 doors you got to cover, and she's just wandering into gunfire.
Running the wrong way sometimes. Yeah. No, the thing I remember most about that game are 2 things. One, the 4-player aspect, like we were talking about, and being able to play with friends. That was insane. So we did a lot of that. The other thing was the first mission where you start in the vents and you come down. There was, to unlock the ultimate secret, whatever that 3rd level was, I can't remember now at this point. You had to go really, really fast.
Oh, you had like a minute. It was something. You had like 60 seconds to do the whole thing. Yeah.
And I just remember playing that so many times in a row until I finally got it. And that's one of my proudest achievements, is when I finally hit on that thing.
Oh, I know the exact feeling you're talking about. You're trying to run. You're trying to take somebody out. You're trying to. I had to hit him a 3rd time. 2 bullets didn't get the job done. I needed a 3rd. I didn't have that half a second. That cost me.
Yeah. Those games where then you start to learn everything that the CPU-controlled players are doing and where they're going to be, and when you get the right combination of things. It's like, oh, yes, he is in that room this time, so now I can actually do this, whatever strategy we were doing. You had to get the right setup.
Yeah, so what was the biggest argument over the screen sniping then, where you're looking, don't look at my corner? No, you watch your own corner.
Yeah, I guess we've had this stream sniping argument back then, except that we were all streaming in our own little corners of TVs. I never made that connection before, but yeah, that screen sniping was now stream sniping, and we used to get in tons of arguments about that. It's like, oh, you look down. It's like, I can't avoid it. This TV's not that big. I'm going to see. They're sneaking up on me.
All right, let's go into the future now. We've certainly spent our time in the past here. Let's talk about a future game you're looking forward to. Coming off the Game Awards, I have to admit, first of all, I didn't realize that this was the guy who played the Joker on Gotham, who played that part on Star Wars Jedi in Fallen Order. I just totally realized when I said, oh, look, he's just the guy. It wasn't just a render. But anyway, Jedi Survivor, that's on your future games list here.
Yeah, and I was surprised by that too when I was watching that. It's like a real person that looks like the character. That game is interesting too. When that game came out for the console, people told me, Wes, you've got to play this game. This is right up your alley. You love Star Wars. I guess I haven't talked about that. I talked a lot about Marvel and stuff, but I love Star Wars. So I love the property. I've played previous games, and I never got into this one. I think I was just too busy at the time. And then just during the pandemic, I bought it for the PC. Now I have a PC. I also didn't have a PC before. Played it on there, and wow, they were right. I mean, the story's great, and it matches with canon in other ways. I always thought of these Star Wars games like Knights of the Old Republic and, well, even to some extent Battlefront and stuff, as these separate entities that weren't part of the Star Wars story or universe. It's just like, oh, you can play and be kind of adjacent to what's going on. But this one has interactions with some of the characters from other stories and plays into this gap that they have in between movies. So I love the lightsaber fighting. I love building games. In this case, you're building your force powers and unlocking more as you go. So I'm very excited about playing this new version, and the trailer looks fantastic.
Yeah, the aesthetics, the music, I've said it before on here, and my son's playing through Fallen Order now, and it's beautiful. You just get really sucked up into it. I'm just curious to see what the plan is going forward here. So, like you said, it's pretty cool that everything kind of weaves. This is my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is a canonical game at this point. It is part of the lore and legacy, and that's the thing. Like, oh, is it Dominic, or I can't remember what the guy's name is, and I feel bad. Because he's done other stuff too, but he is right there ready to go for whenever they're ready to tap him for Ahsoka or whatever else they got hanging in the background. It's they're ready to tap him. Let's go.
Yeah, it's exciting.
All right, one of the things we do here on the podcast is we take a question from the history of Channel 3's history books, and we pick that question to ask you now. We don't give you warning on it. We just take something and see what you want to talk about there. So one of the quests that you've answered in the past on Channel 3, what game needs a VR upgrade?
Did I answer it on Channel 3?
You did. You actually answered Pokemon Snap.
Okay.
Great answer, by the way. Great answer.
Yeah. Pokemon Snap was a very important game for me too. As I said, I was really into Pokemon. And then that was a 3D models of Pokemon that you could interact with in a different way, because you could throw apples at them or smoke bombs or whatever, those stun things, and you could get them to interact. And you felt like you were part of the world, as opposed to the top-down, or even the Pokemon Stadium. They had 3D models, but you were just watching them fight. Here, you felt like they were around you. So when I think about what is good about VR, it's being immersed in that world. And if you could have a Pokemon Snap VR game, you could be then looking all around, up, down, left, right, and be trying to take pictures of them and interact with them in different ways.
I'm surprised. I mean, the Labo thing, it's probably dead, but I'm really surprised they didn't, with the new Pokemon Snap on the Switch, really take a run at that. Like they had it there. They had, I mean, as silly as the cardboard goggles were, I'm surprised they didn't at least build one of the levels where, like, hey, listen, you're here already. Just let's make this work.
Yeah.
As we get to the end of the podcast, we always ask this question for our guest. What is your favorite feature on Channel 3?
Yeah, I'm going to expand on some of the answers that we've had before. The thing I like best about Channel 3, the feature, is it brings together a bunch of people with the same interests, in this case, gaming. When I try to tell people about this, they're like, oh, social media, it's so divisive, and people are always just about themselves. This community is not that way. We're all coming together and helping each other. I'll take like Elray's run with the Super Mario 64 when you were doing that race. The back and forth on that. Who were you going up against? I can't even remember who it was.
I believe it was Thunderpump until I think Darth Smeagol came in at the end of Tokyo. But Thunderpump and I were going at it, I believe.
Joke early on. It's like somebody else is going to come in over.
Yep, and there it happens.
The top, but that was great to watch. You guys were learning from each other in the times and getting better. And one of the things I like about Channel 3 is how we're coming together in our joint love of video games and then making each other better and giving each other tips. It's not a toxic, competitive or divisive atmosphere. It's really one of celebrating gaming together.
There have been a few of those weekly events or, the weekly challenges where, like you said, thankfully it's never gotten toxic. And I think the community is very good at self-policing that. Not that it's necessarily needed, but there have been a few times where you just watch these slugfests back and forth. I jokingly just submitted, I put my dirt bike challenge in for this week. I'm like, I'm not getting 1.5 million points. I'm not competing with Joel. Give me my XP. I'm out. That's it. But there are other times where you see those slugfests that occur, and it's just fun and wholesome, and people are intentionally posting videos of hey, here's how I did it. Shave a few seconds off if you want to go for it. There to just have a little fun with it. It's pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, and the other thing that I like, I don't know if this is a feature, is when we do these tournaments and things, how it's either on these team ups, random teams, where then you just play the hand you're dealt. People are really welcoming. I've been on both sides of it, where I'm a little bit better than or more experienced than the person I'm playing with, or I've been just complete garbage and somebody's tried to carry me. And nobody's grouchy about that or holds it against it. It's more like, hey, I was there once. Let's figure this out together. And I also like the tournaments that we do when it's open and teams is someone will go through and try to pair the experienced player with the less experienced player to try to even out the teams.
And with that, we've made it to the end of another podcast. Thanks again to c3.gg/hrlwesty. You can find the podcast at c3.gg/podcast. We drop these every Wednesday morning at 3:33 a.m. Eastern on all the major platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcasts. I am El Ray. Dan Tucker runs the show. Westy, thanks for being our guest. Everyone, have a good day.
Thank you.